doing? Feel a little taller on the stage, don't you? So, I just got back from Colorado last night late, and then drove over from Tampa this morning. My friends were like, well, you just really don't stop. I said, I'll take a break on Wednesday. But what I want to chat about today is I've had kind of quite a journey. Who's had quite a journey in 2024? Lots of things happening. It's okay. Some of it goes up and down. Am I correct? Some of it you're like, yay! Anybody relate?
Yep.
Okay. We have to go through all of those things, and that's how we understand who we are as a soul and what we're experiencing. One of it's just start understanding what spirit, universe, whatever consciousness, infinite intelligence, God, whatever it is you pray to or feel is trying to guide us, because it has a higher perspective than we do. I was just sitting in this place called Nederland, Colorado the other day, and I never really experienced that feeling when you're at a high altitude and you're kind of short of breath. Everybody experienced that? And my friends are like, are you going to be okay? I was like, I want to go to Machu Picchu, so I better get used to it. But the point is I was out there, me and my business partners started this thing called the Abundant Soul Metaphysical Business Conference, where we're trying to teach business professionals to psychics and mediums and healers and holistic practitioners how to run their business. And so I went out there and I got this great opportunity to go out to Montana in a couple weeks until I saw the $1,200 plane ticket into Kalispell. and so they're all like, we have to feel abundant, you have to feel abundant, you have to feel abundant, you have to call it in. But everything follows into natural law. Everything happens in divine timing, divine order, divine plan, and I always say make it easy. And if it's starting to feel like it's not making it easy, then it's probably either not right for you or it's not the right time. Does that make sense? Maybe you relate to that.
Yes.
Yeah, because you're like, I really want to go. And they're all like, we're going to take all these wonderful pictures of you, and it's going to be on the mountains, it's going to be gorgeous. I said, that's wonderful. But if it's not meant for me to be there, we have no idea where I'm supposed to be. And so that's one of the things I want to chat about this morning, because my workshop later on is about diving in and the journeying within and feeling this energy, and we're also going to do some hands-on healing. But the reason why I'm talking about this is because I could have probably made this work, but it didn't feel right. And has anybody ever gotten that feeling, and then other people that were involved didn't see it your way, and you went ahead and did it anyways because of other people's opinions? But if you're paddling up against the Mississippi River towards the current, and you're in a canoe, how far do you think you're going to get? Well, you could really try really hard, but you're going to wear yourself out and you're going to get sick. Hence, that brings me back to June, a few days before I was supposed to be here the last time. And so I had been really trying to push energy to get things done, because I have my cruises and my online conferences, and I had this Abundant Soul conference, and I wasn't taking time for myself. And so you can imagine the amount of stress I was under. So my blood sugar was at 180, and my blood pressure was at 190 over, I think, 101 or something like that. And because of my family history, they thought I was potentially having a heart attack. So I ended up in this emergency room that wasn't a hospital. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that there was emergency rooms that weren't hospitals. And they take me in my very first ambulance ride. It's not as fun as it sounds. But the guy was nice. So the reason why I'm telling you that story, so I was in the hospital for a few days, and they're monitoring me and all that kind of stuff. I have no blocks on my heart. I'm perfectly healthy. They did diagnose me as a type 2 diabetic. But my blood sugar is now down in normal levels without any medication. And my blood pressure is down in normal levels with a very mild medication. So I'm telling you this for a reason, because as you were pushing towards something, this temple is not being taken care of. And some people say, well, you can heal that with energy. And I'm like, of course you can. But if the body is not responding, that means that there's something you need to take a look at. Everybody with me on that? Okay, and it's okay to go and eat better, take care of yourself. So I've been in the gym now for 4 months. It's okay to do that. I have friends of mine that'll say, you don't have to go to the gym. You can do it right at home. I'm like, that's wonderful. I want to go to the gym. So you have to go where the flow of energy works. And so this is very interesting, because when we're working with people We have to go with the flow of energy is going. And so, who's ever had a situation in your life where things are just happening and you're not liking it, and you feel like you're being almost punished in a sense, and then you get on the other side of it and you're like, wow, that wasn't a punishment, that was shedding away things so I could step into a new aspect of my life. Anybody relate to that? Any numerologists in the room? I'm in a 5-year, so it's been real fun. So, well, what is a 5-year all about? It feels very chaotic and all that kind of stuff. What it is, there's a lot of change because you are changing your life. Then a friend of mine says to me the other day, she goes, well, you just turned 50, and at 50, men start really thinking about their life. She goes, a lot of times they go through divorce, they go through a lot of things, they change their jobs, they quit. She goes, and it's just what men, she goes, and I said, well, I think it's people when they hit a certain age to start thinking about what they want out of their life. I don't think that just has to do with men. I think it has to do with men and women. So, can anybody kind of relate to a lot of changes in their life right now? Has everybody been feeling that in 2024? It could be health, it could be, things that are going on in your mind. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because it's really time to start paying attention to what's going on in the inner world in relation to your people around you and the energy around here. So I've been starting to ask for this manifestation. I am manifesting peace in my life. Everybody say that with me. I am manifesting peace in my life. Why do I say that? Because if you're at peace, guess what? There's going to be enough money in the bank account. And people will argue this with me. They'll say, well, no, not necessarily, because I could be at peace with only $1 in your bank, but all your needs will be taken care of. All your food, your home, that kind of stuff. Because if you didn't have a home, then it's probably peaceful for you. Because I've known homeless people, they're very at peace. I asked a man once, I said, why are you homeless? He goes, I like it. I'm like, well, how do you get in and out of the elements? He goes, I have a tent and I pitch it in the park and I relax and I get to go wherever I want and I have a car and I can drive all the way around the country. I said, well, if it works for you, it works for you. But anybody in this room, a lot of us would say, that's not very peaceful for me. Not for you, for them. Does that make sense? And so we have to start looking at where we're at. So, me living in a tent full-time in a park in a car isn't very peaceful for me. But that's okay. I'm Jeremy. I'm not that person. And these are the things we have to start looking at. And why I say peace, because people will say to me, well, what about a job? I'm like, well, if I have peace, then I'll be in a job that brings me what? Peace. That brings me, people say, well, I want to feel fulfilled. I want to feel like I'm, doing my purpose. Your purpose is right now in this moment. It happens to be sharing space in this sanctuary with all of us right now. That is your purpose right now. But we lose a lot of peace because we're so far in the future and so far in the past. And when we're so far in the future, we don't know what's getting to happen. I know we can psychically feel things, but we also know, does the future change? Am I correct? The future can change. And what does it get changed by? Decisions and people around us. And a lot of times we try to control what is getting to happen because we're afraid of what's going to happen. Who's ever had to move out of a house because you couldn't afford it anymore? It's okay, somebody, you don't have to raise your hand. I've done it. And people are shaking their head. I've never had to do that. I'm like, but did you hold on to a house and because you were afraid to lose it and it destroyed your peace? Has anybody ever gone through that? A lot of people went through that in 2008? Okay. Who's ever held on to a job and you couldn't stand it? And you held on to it because you were afraid to lose it? What if you let go of that and the rest of the world opened up to you? Because what the Spirit's been showing me is that when I hold on, so everybody just kind of take their hands like this and hold on to it really, really, really tightly and see how that feels. You got to feel the tension in your body. Now I want you to just open it up. What do you think manifests better? This or this? Tension or flow? Because intention is created by the left or the Divine Father. You create, it gives the spark, it gives the seed, and then what happens? The Divine Feminine is allowed to create. A child is not born by a man basically impregnating a woman and then him going, you know, the way you're carrying that child is wrong. And you know, you need to hold your belly like this, and you need to tell that child to move around a little bit. You wonder how the pregnancy will go? The child will be like, what is going on? Does that make sense? And there is a natural law called the law of gestation, that things happen exactly in the time that they're supposed to happen. And it takes 9 months to, what? A child to be born and created. And so during that time frame, if we try to control creation, then we're really kind of messing up the gestation of that child. Now, luckily, I've never had to be pregnant, except for this belly that's getting smaller. It's 2 twins in there. It's been there for about 20 years. But, so, and these are the things that we start looking at, and people will come up to me and say, thanks for the reminder. We all have to be reminded. Why? Because we get into our own way as spiritual beings, spiritual beings having a human experience. And it's okay to be reminded. That's why we go to spiritual centers, so we can be reminded, so that we can practice throughout the week, because this is a lifelong practice to grow and learn. So I speak with people all over the country, whether it be online or local. I fly there, and I have a lot of people stand up there and they tell me all about how we should be, but they don't tell me how they got there. And then I'll ask them, I'll say, well, you know, and they never really give me a direct answer. And so back in May, I was flying to California, and I got to speak at a Law of Attraction event, or be a part of a Law of Attraction event. My friend Donna was putting it on. And I get there, and Joe Vitale is the keynote speaker. And so I get there, and I was, you know, just expecting, I wasn't even expecting to get to talk to him, to be quite honest with you, because he's Joe Vitale. And so I ended up having dinner with him and watching him smoke a cigar and drinking his scotch. You guess what? He's a human being. And so why is that important to understand? Because what I learned from him is this. He started talking about his childhood and the relationship with his father and how bad it was until later on in life when they finally healed the things that went on between the two of them. And a lot of it, he was just kind of expressing himself, and it was so rewarding to me because I saw a teacher that was talking about his pain and his healing journey. Instead of him just getting up there and saying, this is how you should do it, he was telling us what? He was telling us that it took him a while, and he does mention in the movie The Secret that he was homeless for a while, sleeping in his car, but it was very short because in a movie that you can't really give a lot of those details. But what I find really phenomenal is when I see a teacher talk about how much pain they've gone through, because then it makes it, what? Relatable for us. Because we're all going through similar things. Now, we might not have had to live in our car like he did, but we've had somebody break our heart before. Does anybody have somebody break their heart before? Yeah. Anybody felt betrayed before? Anybody ever felt lied to before? Yes. You know, these all things happen. And what does it feel like inside? It feels heavy. So I'm not sure if I did this exercise the last time I was here, but I want everybody to put their hands out like this. We're going to do it again because I love this exercise. And I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to imagine your left hand, I want you to imagine it has a bucket in that hand. And in that bucket, somebody's pouring water in it. And it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And they're just going to continue pouring water in it. It's getting heavier and heavier. Now on the right hand, I want you to imagine there's 100 balloons in that right hand, and it's getting lighter and lighter and lighter. Somebody's still pouring water in that bucket, so it's getting a lot heavier. And then your arm, the right hand is getting a lot lighter. Now I want you to drop the bucket and let go of the balloons, and then I want you to hold your hands out and just open them, take a deep breath in. Everybody feel the release in your body? Okay, you gotta put your hands down. That's what happens in our minds all the time when we're not in flow. We got the heaviness over here of all of our thoughts and all the people that we felt have lied and betrayed to us, disappointment, all that other kind of stuff, because that's in the past. And then we got this fear of the future, of what's not going to happen because we don't want to experience what we've had in the past. And then we have all these light, wonderful, beautiful feelings, all these affirmations and everything going on that's in us. And we're like, oh my goodness, this is so wonderful. But we're in this inner struggle that's going on. So we want this, and then we don't like this. But the truth is that if we love this and say to this, you know what? That's no longer a part of my life. I'm living here in center, and that's why I'm letting go of you and letting go of you so that I can now experience life in balance in this moment and allow myself to flow into what Spirit is guiding me to do. Does anybody have your spirit guides tell you stuff and you're like, a couple weeks later or a year later, your spirit guides are like, yeah, I tried to tell you that. And you're like, I know, I just didn't hear it. It's because there's something in you that is trying to fight against the grain of what's you're being guided to do. And that's okay. It's not meant for us to feel guilty or bad. It's meant for us to say, that was an opportunity for me to what? Learn, grow, and feel myself in this moment so that I can what? Do better the next time, be in balance the next time, grow into the next moment. And so what I would say is that when you start to look at these things, even your health diagnoses, diabetes is about life is not sweet enough. But it's also about major trauma that has happened in your life that you're unwilling to look at. And so you're trying to escape those feelings that are still in your subconscious that are looping. I call it a Fritzy loop. It's just looping over and over again in your subconscious until you finally step down and say, whoa, stop, what's going on? So the reason why I tell you that story about the subconscious, this is the nature of my healing work with people, is to sit in that subconscious and find out what it is. So that trip out to California, I had all this imposter syndrome coming, and I'm flying out there, and I had this major anxiety coming out there. I could just feel it shaking inside. Well, why? Because it was pulling me back to junior high and high school where everybody was making fun of me for being 6 foot tall at 12 years old and 6'2" at 14 years old, and part of a church that didn't celebrate Christmases and stuff. So what do you think kids thought I was? They thought I was what? Weird. Anybody relate to that? So, who saw spirits when they were a kid? When they were younger? Did you talk about it a lot? Or if you did, people were like, what? We don't see spirits. It happens to us now too, right? Some people will be talking about, they're like, that law of attraction stuff doesn't work. I'm like, well, yeah, you're right, it doesn't work if you say it doesn't. I remember the first time I used a pendulum, and one of my friends was sitting over there rolling his eyes. He said, you're moving that. I'm like, what does it matter to you? So these are the things that we live in our life, and we live our life in the now of the moment, in balance, and we don't have to sit there and struggle with this energy. Because if we know, this is one thing a friend of mine was telling me about. I have a friend that's a very big conspiracy theorist and tells me all of these things going on, and you should do this and you should do that. And I said, I'll know what I'm supposed to do when I need to do it. Because Spirit will tell me what to do and where to be and what I should have to do. And I'll be exactly where I'm supposed to be at any right and perfect time. And it gets them very upset because they feel like I'm not listening. And then I have people tell me when I'll say a word, I'm like, it's not words that create, it's the emotions, the energy behind the words. Because I work with a lot of clients that if I mention the word Jesus, they literally tense up. And I know everybody pulls back. Well, why? Because they have an energy on it's not the word, it's what? Their trauma. But did Jesus cause that? Or did people cause that? With me on this? And then people have been in really corporate jobs, and you mention a corporation, they start to flex up because they start to feel like they're in prison. Or if you mention I mentioned to a woman recently, I was doing a session with her on Zoom, and I said, well, let's call in the Archangel. She froze up, she goes, Archangel Michael's been attacking me. And I'm like, no, that's not a thing. Well, we say that because this is our work, right? But she felt that because a psychic in Australia told her that Archangel Michael was attacking her. Now I know we all feel this, but it's not what I'm looking at. When I'm like, stop, I said, you're into words, let's get into energy. The energy was already there of limitation for you. Now let's get in here and stop listening to what somebody in Australia says and get into what you feel in your heart. Does that make sense? And that's the real healing work, because the words and the people and the archetypes and all that kind of stuff doesn't matter. It's what's going on inside of you. I get constant clients that tell me that aliens are attacking them. And so I said, because you have dominion over your experience. Does that make sense? And so the way I was raised is you call upon these energies to what? Protect you. But not everybody has had that experience. And other people have given them other ways of thinking. So you have to get somebody in their own healing back into their body, because anybody experience when you're upset and you're like all over the place, and you're talking a million miles an hour, and you know, that's where you're what? Ungrounded. And so you have to kind of get the person back into their bodies. And so when you do that, and people say, well, I'm always grounded. I was like, nobody's always grounded. And so, because what ends up happening? You get a phone call and somebody you love is in a car accident, what are you going to do? You're going to immediately start moving really fast, you're going to get nervous, you're going to get excited. When I was in the hospital, my best friend was going through WebMD, trying to diagnose me. He's, Jim, remember you're having a stroke. And I'm like, he's having a heart attack. And in a sense, he was kind of making it what? Worse. But he wasn't doing it because he was being mean. He was doing it because he was what? Scared and concerned. So I had to start breathing and practicing what I preach and get grounded and say, honey, let the doctors do their job. And he finally started to calm down. And these are the things we're going to have to start doing, because the world is what? A little crazy right now. That's me being PC. It's a little crazy right now. And so the people around us and the people that love us, they're all going to have their own opinions, they're all going to have their ways of thinking, they're all going to have their fears, and they're all going to think. But us as spiritual beings and practitioners of this, I believe it is our work to practice internally with us and be the example. We don't have to be the teachers by out there lecturing. We teach by doing what? Living our lives in the spiritual principles that we believe in, living in the now and the moment. Thank you so much. I'll leave you with that.